Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network draft analyst, has released an updated top 50 for the 2025 NFL draft, and he's so on top of things that he released another updated rankings before I could even cover this one. So we're not going to be covering 2.0 pre-combine. We're going to be covering 3.0 post-combine updated top 50 for one of the most respected draft analysts in the game, talking about each and every one and seeing the movement overall inside the top 50, guys who are pushing inside the top 50, guys who are falling out. And typically, DJ has one of the best top 50s that you're going to find in terms of where these guys actually go in the draft, hitting on a lot of players in those rankings that end up going inside the top 50 of the actual NFL draft. So I'll leave a link down below if you want to read it yourself. Of course, we're not going to be reading it line for line, but we're going to start out with Penn State's Abdul Carter pretty much holding this number one spot. Although I think Travis Hunter is also in the conversation to be there for that number one player in this draft. I think it's fairly unquestioned that these are about the top two. I think you could get Ashton Jeanty into that conversation as well after such an incredible 2024, and we'll see if he is indeed at number 3 in this list. And he is. There's been no movement so far, but these are like the blue chip players in this class. Abdul Carter is a super athletic, twitched up edge rusher that's still transitioning to playing off the edge and has unreal potential, great size for the position. Travis Hunter is the best corner in this class. He's the best receiver in this class. He's an incredible player. You know, some people want to say, oh, he's, barely a first-round receiver prospect, or the same thing about corner. It's just not true. He is the best prospect at both positions in this draft. He's just that level of player and athlete. And yeah, we'll see what his NFL role ends up being. Ashton Jeanty, of course, is also an incredible player. I wouldn't say so much a power back as he's just got incredible contact balance. I mean, he really is like a human pinball. He just bounces off every single would-be tackler and continues to go. It's going to be interesting to see if that continues to be the trend at the NFL level, but I don't know if it's his center of gravity or what's going on, but the guy just does not go down. Incredible talent as we get to Mason Graham at number 4. Powerful defensive tackle with outstanding leverage and instincts. His effort is outstanding. Overall, it's easy to identify Graham as a former wrestler. He always has a full gas tank, and he set the tone for the entire Michigan defense. Yeah, he's fantastic against the run and also quick as a pass rusher as well, even if he doesn't have that real true power yet. He has definitely some shorter arms than you'd like for the position, but it has not stopped him, and he's a very, very good prospect in this draft. Although I do think he is in a tier below the top 3, even though he's right there. He might even be in a tier of his own. At number 4, Tyler Warren is number 5. I tweeted out yesterday, follow me on Twitter, at Bengal YouTube, that with the Jags cutting Evan Ingram, I know they have Brenton Strange, it doesn't move me all that much, they could be in play to draft Tyler Warren. I said it's not impossible that they would draft him at number 5 and be, oh, that's way too early. It's like, well, this draft class isn't all that amazing. Tyler Warren very easily could be a top 5 player in this class. It's not out of the question to think that he could be, drafted there to Jacksonville at number 5 when he can block a little bit and, of course, offers a ton of value as a receiver, has great overall size. He's a beast. I don't think it's out of the question to say that he could go at 5. And then you'd have some people who are like, well, 5's a little early, but maybe 10. It's like, can you really guarantee trading back 5 spots and still getting the player that you want? You really can't. So is it worth it to pick up, maybe a mid-round or day 3 pick when you could miss out on the player entirely? It's not generally how teams do things. They don't usually take big-time gambles like that. So Warren ends up being the 5th pick. Although it is a good time to remind you that this video is sponsored by Underdog. Here, you can see, made some picks on the Combine. And people go, oh, making picks on the Combine, that's crazy. It's like, well, these are sometimes where you can get the best value. 150 on this entry, but they're also, a ton of different specials they have going on all the time. You can use code BENGAL on Underdog. Of course, March Madness coming up, the baseball season coming up, the NBA's in full swing. If you're a hockey person, you get a 30% profit boost to boost your hockey entry. Of course, it's NHL only. They've got specials going on all the time. Your availability map will show that you can play in so many different states. If you can't play Classic, you can probably play Pick'em Champions. If you can't play anything, move. I don't know. They've got free picks going all the time. Of course, Luka Doncic to score over half a point. If he scores 1 point or more, you're a winner on this one pick. So pair it with something you like. If you feel really good about that other thing, it's a really way to find a little bit of success here on Underdog with code Bengal. When you use my code Bengal, again, link down in the description, you get up to $1,000 in bonus credits to play with. So definitely hop on underdog.com, use code Bengal, and hopefully make some money. Moving up a spot here, and I have not seen this, is my first time reaction. Colston Loveland up from 7 to number 6. He's right there with Tyler Warren. It's kind of like a little bit different style of tight ends here. I think Warren is definitely big enough and a good enough blocker to play, in line and be that, classic prototypical tight end. Loveland, while he's about 245 pounds, I don't know if he's going to quite play at that weight, but that's where he was at the combine. Did not run or anything due to injury, but he is truly more of a receiver than a traditional tight end. But overall, he's not bad as a blocker when he's moving out in space. It's not a guy that's going to be able to handle defensive ends with, routine success. But yeah, he's definitely lean. I think that's a really good description for him. So even though he's 245, it's not exactly like he's, bulky and big enough as a blocker consistently, and you do kind of see that. But what a great receiver. There's a ton of value there. And you can see these tight ends at 5 and 6. Some of the best players in the draft here. This is not a hot take. It's not weird to see these guys up here at all. And I think there is a chance where you see Warren go at 5 to the Jaguars. I think it's not out of the question. 7 to the Jets, depending on if a quarterback falls, would be Shedeur Sanders. And even though I'm curious whether or not we're going to see all these QBs go in the first round. You're seeing Will Howard get first round hype. You're seeing Jackson Dart get first round hype. It feels a lot like the Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, Desmond Ridder draft, where these guys were all mocked inside the first round at this time. And then we saw one guy go in the first round. It was Kenny Pickett at 20. It's a little bit different. I think Ward actually has some legit potential. So he might just end up going really high. But I really don't know about Dart, Howard, even Shedeur Sanders, even though he might be the best QB day one. It just feels wrong. You watch these guys play, they're not like true first-round players, but this is not overall a super great draft class at the top in general. And teams always need quarterback. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, Loveland, if Warren goes at 5, 7, or 9 to the Saints, maybe 13 or 14 to the Dolphins and Colts, could Loveland go in that same range? Like if Tyler Warren, let's say he goes at 5 to Jags, what's stopping a team like the Saints or especially the Colts or maybe even the Dolphins from taking Colston Loveland with one of their picks? I don't think it's absolutely impossible to think about that. Like, yes, you can say, oh, well, they need offensive line help or whatever, right? Like that's been common for the Dolphins and the Bears even as well. Well, the Bears just traded for Jonah Jackson. They just traded for Joe Thuney. Guard is no longer a need at all, right? Jonah Jackson, plug and play right guard, away from center. Joe Thuney, plug and play left guard, away from left tackle, like he was having to play with the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, that really opens up the possibility of a lot of different things that they could do now at 10, compared to where, they have to go offensive line. No, they don't, actually, right? And this is why it's important to note that pre-free agency, you don't know what's going to happen. So with these mock drafts, sometimes you just go BPA, and maybe these needs have already been figured out by the time the draft comes around. These are possibilities. We'll see what the Dolphins do in free agency, trying to improve their offensive line. Maybe the Colts look to add a guard. We will see. But Loveland there at number 6. Jalen Walker drops one spot from 6 to 7. And Jahdae Barron moves up one spot from 9 to 8. People get so upset when Jalen Walker's mocked high to their team, and I really don't get it. He's an unbelievable athlete with power. Even though he's 6'2", 245, seems a little bit light for a true edge. In a 3-4, like, this guy can be a monster player. We've even seen guys that are, as light as he is, that can play in a 4-3, like Micah Parsons, for example, obviously has a lot of experience doing that. Walker could end up being one of the best players in the draft, just needs to develop a little bit. And you get people that say, oh, if we're picking a player in the top 10, we don't want anyone that we need to develop. We want a guy that's a bona fide star right now. That doesn't necessarily exist in most draft classes, certainly not this one. Like with Micah Parsons, as good as he was, off the edge as a rookie and then in his sophomore year in the NFL, this guy wasn't a top 5 pick. I don't even think he was a top 10 pick. I think Micah Parsons went at like 11 or 13 maybe. Like, there's no guarantee, obviously, that Jalen Walker is going to be Micah Parsons, right? Absolutely not. But to think that he's not worth a top 10 pick or even top 15, I think ridiculous just because he needs a little bit of development as a pass rusher. But the tools are all there, for sure. Jahdae Barron, great player. Ran really, really fast at the combine, 4.39. Obviously, Texas was playing in a lot of zone defense, but you can say he lacks elite top speed, and you kind of see that when you watch him play, but then he comes out and runs with elite speed, 4.39 in the 40. Very interesting. Matthew Golden, kind of a weird, similar type of deal, running 4.29, doesn't really play to that level of speed. Would have thought Isaiah Bond would have been there. That guy plays really fast. Golden really plays more polished than anything else. But Jahdae Barron here, great player. I think this is like the classic of what you want to talk about as Jahdae Barron here. Always in position, good timing, always near the football. Really does remind me of Brian Branch, and I've been saying that for a year now. Jahdae Barron is a great player. Is he going to end up going in the top 10? I'd be surprised, but I know he's going to be valuable in the NFL. He's not a true boundary. I don't think he's going to be an NFL boundary. He's just shorter. He's got short arms. And there are questions about that top speed. It really screams nickel corner. But that player can be really, really valuable in the case of Brian Branch and a lot of other great slot corners in the NFL. Will Campbell drops from 8 to 9. One of the better players in this class for sure. Not in that top tier of prospect. The shorter arms certainly would tell you that, but really good film overall. Probably about a top 10 player in this class, so 9 feels about right, and has a chance maybe to stick a tackle, but his best position is probably as a guard. At number 10, it's Cam Ward, staying right where he's been. He's got big-time traits, big-time arm, and need to see him play a little bit more on time, a little bit more under control, and be a little bit safer with the football. At number 11, Armand Membu, moving up 7 spots. He's got great tape and then tested crazy well. So I really don't mind him moving up to 11. I know Dane Brugler has him as a top 10 player in the entire draft. Certainly makes sense, and his arms are 33.5 inches. I think that's enough to stick on the outside, especially at right tackle. I think Membu is a plug-and-play starting right tackle with potential to move inside to guard as well. Jahad Campbell at 12. Love Jahad Campbell. And, of course, move to off-ball linebacker because of Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, a number of other players in there as well. And then it really broke out. Just a player you needed to get on the field. And also has the ability off the edge. Bendy edge rusher when he's been tasked with doing that. Unreal speed when blitzing up the middle. And not bad in coverage. It's just about kind of read and react, diagnosing the run where Campbell needs to improve. But the athleticism is incredible. Will Johnson drops to 13, dropping 2 spots here. Overall, Johnson isn't a perfect player, but Jeremiah loves his blend of size and ball skills. He's also not testing at his pro day either, as was reported today. I saw that today. So you've got even more questions now developing about his long speed. He's doing nothing to dispel those. And he's dealt with a bunch of injuries, some nagging things, but Will Johnson, certainly a good prospect. Overall has good size, but the arm length being 9th percentile was concerning for a guy that is expected to be this big outside corner. You wonder, okay, is he going to end up in the slot? That would be definitely an interesting development, but it's not impossible for a player that was going into the season viewed as a top 5 guy in the draft. Love Will Johnson in 2023. 2024, more questions arising, and we're not exactly getting good answers. Amarion Hampton up to number 14, up 5 spots. I'm telling you, it does not seem out of the question that Hampton's going to go inside the first half of the first round. And it might be going to a team that you don't think should take running back round 1 because, again, they have other needs, but that's not necessarily how teams draft, especially if Hampton can be a true difference maker. You got to remember that, with the narrative surrounding running backs, especially in the first round, they're not necessarily teams that share those same sentiments. And we've seen running backs go high as a result. If you can get a really good player, teams generally look to draft that really good player. Bijan at 8, Jahmyr Gibbs at 12, even though it seemed jarring at the time. I'm going to say it, and I've said it before, and there's been backlash or whatever, but it's not impossible, even if you think it is or don't want it to happen. Genty could go inside the top 10 comfortably, right? Raiders at 6 feel like a spot. Saints at 9 feel like a spot. Bears at 10 feel like a spot. The Cowboys are still a running back team, even with Genty off the board. If they've got a good enough grade on Amarion Hampton, here he's number 14 of the draft on Daniel Jeremiah's top 50. If they've got a big enough grade on Amarion Hampton, he could go at number 12, right? He could be the 12th pick in the draft. He could be the 20th pick in the draft to Denver. The Vikings feel like a fit. There are options, right? So it's not impossible that Hampton's going to go a lot earlier than what is currently being projected. At number 15, Matthew Golden up 7 spots after running a blazing fast 40. And this, by the way, is our first true receiver. Travis Hunter, obviously, unicorn, whatever. But Matthew Golden, again, you can see kind of the same thing with Jahdae Barron. Doesn't have dynamic traits, but he's a natural football player and a quarterback's best friend. He's dependable. He, on field, is not the 4.29 guy, but I think he's got good general speed, but it's more about the polish with him, the fact that he doesn't drop the ball, the fact that he knows how to get open against man and zone, especially. Great player, and ranked ahead now of the number 16 player, Teteroa McMillan. McMillan falling a little bit in general here. He's got good overall size, but not like exceptional weight. Came in, though, at like 219 at the combine, which is pretty good. But, there was actually an interesting tweet put out yesterday by Ben Fennell, who is, someone that loves watching film and within the NFL space, and kind of talked about, these 6'4", 6'5" receivers that are not like 225, 230 and up, like your Vincent Jackson, Calvin Johnson, etc. It's like their history of success isn't actually incredible. Now, there are outliers. Think of A.J. Green, even though he struggled to stay healthy. Teteroa McMillan is an interesting prospect where, lacks ideal suddenness or burst in his release, but smooth, easy mover. I think he's decent after the catch as well, and obviously has a huge catch radius with his overall size. He is certainly a good prospect, but questions about top-end ability maybe push him here to the middle of this first round in terms of the rankings. Emeka Egbuka right there as well, up 6 spots, number 17. You can see the groupings, right? Saw Warren and Loveland right next to each other. Saw now Golden, McMillan, and Egbuka all right next to each other. Egbuka up 6 spots. Views him as an impact slot receiver in the mold of former Buckeye Jackson Smith and Jigba. I also think there's a chance he can play the Z as well. Another, solid, reliable guy. Like a Matthew Golden in a lot of ways. He's polished. He's not afraid to do the dirty work. There are going to be teams where he's a really good fit. I think like the LA Rams would be a tremendous fit for Emeka Egbuka. At 18, it is Shedeur Sanders down 3 spots. Sanders is a slightly undersized quarterback prospect with outstanding touch accuracy and toughness. Overall, Sanders doesn't have elite size, arm strength, or athleticism, but he can find success in an offense based on timing and ball placement. Think about like Miami. Think about San Francisco. I'll tell you, I'd hate to get super spicy here, but not really. It's just an idea, right? Is there a chance with the Brock Purdy contract negotiations going on, where Purdy wants more and more and more money, more than he's worth probably. If Shedeur Sanders falls to 11, would the 49ers pull the trigger because Sanders is such a great fit in that Kyle Shanahan offense, you'd think? And it would be significantly cheaper. They want to get younger. They want to keep, some of the talent that they have. They just traded Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk may be out the door next. I know they have other needs, especially in the trenches, but if Sanders gets to 11, maybe it happens. And that's the shock of the first round, similarly to the way that Michael Penix was the shock of the first round last year to the Falcons at 8. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm going to say it's not impossible. And I know it's like, that's impossible. It really probably isn't. Sanders, I don't think is a lock first rounder, even though there's a good chance he does with all the quarterback needy teams. Good chance, right? But I don't think he's a lock first rounder based on ability. So him falling out of the top 10, not that crazy. Could be an interesting pickup there at 11. I know I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it could be a possibility. Nick Eamon up 6 spots to number 19. Massive safety prospects with ideal instincts and ball skills. I mean, he's got such a great history of finding the football. Interceptions galore, pick sixes galore. Really, really good player. Nick Eamon also incredible size. The most athleticism of any safety we've ever seen. He's just incredible in terms of height, weight, speed, explosiveness. Eamon unbelievable, but he's not just an athlete. He's a really, really good football player, and I think the ball skills and instincts kind of show you that. And I also think he can play too high. Now, he might not be as good from that playing a deep half, but I think it's something where he can continue to grow or play in that overhang role. He's definitely got enough speed and ability to carry routes vertically, as I continue to say. I really like Nick Eamon. We'll see where he ends up going. Mykel Williams down 4 to number 20. Didn't test at the combine. He's played injured the entire season and still flashed like incredible potential and ability. And of course, high effort. Overall, the 2024 tape isn't a fair representation of Williams' talent. He has game-changing tools when healthy and locked in. And that's why I think he's got a good chance to go top 10. I think it's not out of the question that you see Williams and Walker both go top 10. I think there's a chance, let's say 2 QBs go top 10. Let's say we'll go Giants and Browns, maybe, it doesn't matter. Genty probably inside that top 10 in that scenario. Not a guarantee on the receivers, but you could see, obviously, Hunter, Carter, Genty, we'll say, Mason Graham, and then the quarterbacks will say Ward and Sanders. So that's 7. And then Mykel Williams, Jalen Walker, even Shamar Stewart. I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's crazy at all, especially given the teams that are drafting. Like Bears at 10 need D-line a little bit. Saints need it. Jets potentially need it. It's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening. But Williams has got as much potential as anyone. Has got incredible size. I really feel like he could go very, very high in this draft. Mike Green at 21, down 4 spots. Obviously a little bit undersized, but twitched up, explosive. Really, really fun player to watch. As you can see in the run game, can still play against bigger bodies, knocks back tight ends to the point of attack, and can separate to free himself for tackles. He is very disruptive on stunts and games. Overall, Green is a very gifted pass rusher and more than holds his own against the run. And you can see the grouping here. This is how Daniel Jeremiah likes to group his prospects together, guys that may separate themselves in the process in the offseason. But right now, very similar grades on all these same positions here. Mike Green, now James Pierce at 22, down 1. Long, lean edge rusher, we know about him. 6'4", 6'5", probably 245 pounds. Played a little bit lighter. Does set a firm edge, especially against tight ends, but against offensive tackles at that size is going to be a lot more difficult to do that when you're playing at 245 pounds. We'll see if he continues to gain weight or not, like Brian Burns. Overall, Pierce has double-digit sack potential and should make an immediate impact in the league. Obviously, great burst off the line, incredibly explosive, even though his vert wasn't anything crazy, but ran in the 4.4s. Tyler Booker down 10 spots from 13 to 23. Not doing himself any favors, didn't test well. Now, that's not really his game. Yeah, he's more of a gap scheme, power run type guy rather than a zone run offense where he's got to really utilize his ability to move in space. That's not really necessarily his game. But overall, again, I think you're going to say that somebody that's solid, dependable, good enough as a pass protector, definitely strong in the run game, could still be a first-round pick. Gray Zabel up 5 spots to 24, somebody that definitely feels like a first-round pick right now. Played tackle at North Dakota State. He is an NFL guard or maybe even a center. He's aced every test this offseason from Senior Bowl to the Combine. Overall, I see Dable as a day one starter at guard. I don't think this is that different from a Graham Barton. I think he's going to go in that same range, potentially in the 20s maybe even slightly higher. He's got history playing tackle, but is better as a guard or center in the NFL, that has crushed the offseason, that is just going to be reliable, dependable, and a day one type starter. Zabel, really, really good prospect with shorter arms. It's going to push him inside for sure. Malachi Starks up 9 spots to 25. I'm feeling way better about it. I thought he was just too low last time around. I think Starks is one of the best 10 players in this draft. Yes, 2024 was not as good as 2023, but this is a true free safety prospect. He is a ball hawk. He has great ball skills. He is a playmaker, and he's instinctive. He's apparently a big-time leader, and his intelligence and leadership ability have blown NFL teams away in meetings. He is a great prospect. I think he's going to be a first-round pick, and he's going to be a great value pickup. I know it's not necessarily a super valuable position. We just don't value safety that highly in the NFL draft, it seems, lately. But I think he's a really good player, and if he slips to the second round, what a steal at that point. He's a great prospect in a not-so-great draft. I think he's a top 10 player. I'm going to have him top 10. Derek Harmon at 26. Quick, disruptive defensive tackle, excellent instincts. Also tested quite well. Overall, Harmon has a great feel for the game and can create a lot of havoc despite lacking an elite trait. He's 313 pounds, ran sub 5 in the 40. Had the most pressures among any IDL at the FBS level last year. Like Harmon a lot as a player, and I think he should be a first-round pick as well. Shamar Stewart up only 1 spot after an incredible combine. The production is not good, but it's partly, not being able to finish in the passing game. It's partly the role that he was playing. I think he's shown you in the offseason that he can end up being a game-wrecking defensive end. Shamar Stewart, to me, is a first-round player, and again, I'm probably going to have a top 10 grade on him as well. Kenneth Grant, down 8 spots to 28. If you want to see what Grant is capable of, watch Michigan's game against USC from the 2024 season. His upside was on full display that day. Unfortunately, he couldn't bottle that performance during an up-and-down season, and Michigan wasn't great in general. Overall, there is some assembly required, but his physical tools are very loud and worth the investment. Kelvin Banks, down 5 spots here to 29. Banks is a thick, sturdy left tackle in pass pro. He launches out of his stance and shows the ability to sink and bend his knees. Some teams have him as more of a guard, but I believe he can hold up a tackle. Overall, Banks has some things to clean up, but I like his core foundation of strength and agility. Yeah, we'll see if he ends up going, near the top 10. It doesn't really feel like we're going to see a run on offensive linemen inside the top 10 where you see Campbell and Membu go, but maybe one of those two. Maybe one. And then Banks could go somewhere in the teens, maybe into the 20s. Donovan Ezeraku also feels like he's going to end up being a first-round pick. Incredible length, 34-inch plus arms. Incredibly productive, 16.5 sacks in 2024. And very, very agile. Tested so well at the combine. Did not run a 40, but his agility, 3-cone, short shuttle, all very, very good. And he's got ability as a day one pass rush specialist, designated pass rusher. and can grow into maybe more of a 3-down player. I think in a 3-4 would be a really good fit for him overall. Luther Burden up 2 spots to 31. Ended up testing great. I love Luther Burden as a prospect. I'm going to have him probably in that top 20 for sure, maybe even higher than that, maybe top 15. I like him a lot as a player. I think he's in the conversation solidly as wide receiver 1. It's kind of like the Malachi Starks thing. Wasn't as good for a number of reasons in 2024, but his 2023 was spectacular. I think he's going to end up being a great player, and I don't think he's limited to being in the slot. This is kind of how I feel about, like CeeDee Lamb coming out. I thought was a lot better than where he was kind of being mocked or where his grades ended up being. Justin Jefferson, feel the same way, where I didn't know what I was missing at the time. I like Justin Jefferson a lot, and no one really rated him that highly. They thought he was going to be a slot receiver, and I feel like it's a similar story to Luther Burden. I love what I see when I watch Burden. Again, 2023 a lot better than 2024. He's great after the catch. He tested really well. I think he is actually quite agile. I think he's got great foot quickness, and I think that's going to show an ability to grow as a route runner. Obviously, there's more nuance to it, but I really like Burden as a prospect. I think he's going to end up being a really good player. See where he ends up going, though, I guess. Maxwell Hairston up 11 spots to 32, and that's one of the highest-rated corners in this class, by the way. It's Barron listed as a corner, Will Johnson, and then CB3 now for DJ's Top 50 is Maxwell Hairston after an incredible combine. He's got great speed, but he can really lock on and play in man as well. Press coverage, he incorporates a one-hand jam before turning and carrying vertical routes, which you're not running by him typically. Although Isaiah Bond did with a better throw, it would have been a touchdown. Really, really good player, and dealt with some injury stuff, but he's got real potential in this class. Travion Henderson, RB3. See where Caleb Johnson ends up being, up 2 spots to 33. Muscled up runner with elite speed and versatility. Overall, Henderson is a 3-down weapon, brimming with big play potential, and is a great, great, great blocker. Can catch the football. Yeah, Henderson's a fun player. I don't know if he's going to be a day 1 guy, but he's a really, really good prospect. You just worry about size and ability to stay healthy, but overall, Henderson is fantastic. Walter Nolan down 7 spots. He's twitched up. He's explosive. Maturity questions, I wonder if we're going to see that in here, may push him down the board. Nolan is a twitchy defensive tackle who fits best in a penetrating style of defense. Ole Miss slanted him quite often in its defensive scheme, and he created some early wins versus run and pass. So let's see here. Inability to locate the ball is a problem. On the ground, a little bit too much, and that's getting caught and washed at times. Overall, Nolan is extremely talented and disruptive, but he hasn't come close to reaching his potential. If he lands with the right scheme or coach, he can emerge as one of the better players in this draft class. And I've heard questions about maturity and character, and that will certainly impact where a player goes. Josh Simmons at 35, down 4, which is interesting because I think the tape is fantastic, even though season-ending injury in October. Very good size, even though the arm length wasn't anything crazy. I think it's sub 34. He can adjust in space and combos. The main question with Simmons is health. What he put on tape this fall should generate plenty of optimism about his chances of becoming a quality starting left tackle in the NFL. Here's the thing, though. Apparently, his injury is in great position. Like, he's healing at a fantastic rate, way ahead of schedule. If Simmons falls to the second round, I would be fairly surprised. Maybe the health does push him down this far. And this is not a mock draft. This is just a top 50. But I don't know. I feel like he is a clear first-round talent in this draft. I feel like he could go a little bit earlier than this. But again, injury stuff, we'll see. But if he's ahead of schedule, if he came in at the combine and aced their medicals for where he's supposed to be, I think you're going to see him, solidly in the first round. Quinshon Judkins at 36. Came out, tested great, and certainly has true NFL RB1 type size at like 220, and then ran sub 4.5 in the 40. Really good player. Again, yeah, not as polished in the passing game, not as good of a blocker, not as good of a receiver, but a good prospect nonetheless, and has a chance to, be a 15 to 25 carry a game type of guy at the next level. Mason Taylor down 1 from 36 to 37. Big athletic tight end, catches the ball, great, knows how to get open, and is good after the catch. Not a mauler in the run game, but he can screen off and stay attached. Overall, Taylor has the ability to be a day one starter with high volume production. Kind of feels like a Sam Laporta type in the way that, okay, this guy might end up going a little bit earlier than you'd expect. And Laporta was like the 34th pick in the draft. Taylor, I think, could very easily go top 40. It's a really good tight end class, and he's a big reason why. Connerly up 2 spots at 38. Yeah, definitely big. He's like 6'4", 315, athletic. Not an elite athlete, but has the tools to develop into a solid starter in time. Donovan Jackson down 7. I also feel like he is probably trending towards the first round. DJ's got him down 7, though. Interesting. He is a guard, but he's got 34-inch arms. And then when he stepped in to play tackle, it was great. Yeah, first game against Carter wasn't fantastic. It was his first game at tackle. And then down the stretch in the CFP was incredible. So I think he's athletic enough to play tackle. And obviously is a big-time guard prospect. Feels like he's going to go a little bit earlier than 39. Again, not a mock draft, but feels like he's going to be a player I start putting inside the first round more and more often. Number 40, Jackson Dart. Up 2. Slightly below average height and a thick, sturdy frame. Excellent athlete and was very productive in Lane Kiffin's offensive system. A lot of RPOs, quick hitters, seam balls. It's not an NFL-style offense at all. He can create off-script and execute on designed QB runs. Overall, Dart is still a work in progress, but he possesses starter traits, and his competitiveness will endear him to his teammates. Yeah, this is interesting. I don't see Dart as a first-round player, as a prospect, but yeah, if you're going to say, all right, he's got traits and he's competitive team leader, like that's things that, teams are going to look for in a quarterback prospect. But, I question how he's going to translate. We shall see. Trey Amos, his teammate, up from unranked, now to 41. 6'3", or 6 foot, 6'3", crazy, 6 foot and 3/4, 195, which is more than enough size to play corner. Alleviated his top end speed concerns with a 4.43 in the 40, and that I guess has pushed him up inside DJ's top 50. And he was so good at Ole Miss this past season. I don't see him as a first round player. I think somewhere in the solid second round seems about right for Trey Amos. But yeah, really, really good player overall. And yeah, we'll see where he goes. Azariah Thomas, I also like quite a lot. Questions about his top-end speed too, but as a press man corner, Thomas has the size and strength to be someone, in that same range of like fringe first round, maybe second round type player. Josh Farmer at 43. He's got big-time potential. He's got really good size, really good overall athleticism, I would say, for that size, and can really explode off the ball and make an impact. Josh Farmer at 43. Benjamin Morrison at 44. Injury concerns, but could absolutely be a starter. He's got the size, got the ball skills, of course. I think press man, he is quite good. Elijah Arroyo at 45. Love him as a player. Think he's an incredible receiver. Limited on the number of catches, but he's got some injury questions, and I thought he really crushed the Senior Bowl. I think he's got big-time upside as a receiving tight end. And he's 6'5", 250. He's not like a small guy either, but he's really more of a receiver than a traditional classic inline tight end. Carson Schlesinger at 46, down 7 spots here. Came in at the combine at 242, which was a lot heavier than his listed playing weight at 225. And you can see his speed, the instinctiveness. Those things really show up when you watch Carson Schlesinger. He's great in coverage, but To show up and not be just the coverage linebacker and show up at 242, didn't test or anything. I think maybe he did a vertical, but no 40. I don't think I saw him in the on-field drills at all. He is definitely one of the top 50 players in this class, I would say, and someone that I do think will be in the second round range. The Falcons feels like a really good landing spot for him in that round 2 range if they don't go Jahad Campbell in round 1. At number 47, it's Landon Jackson, up from unranked to 47. 6'6", 264 at the combine. He's got incredible length. Explosiveness was shown from his vert, his broad jump. He ran really well, developing as a pass rusher. But it's his size and length and overall athleticism that are moving him up the rankings here. A long way to go as a pass rusher, though, for sure. Caleb Johnson at 48. Love him as a player. He is, I don't know if I would say excellent burst to me is maybe not exactly how I would describe Caleb Johnson, but I think the vision and the ability to explode through those holes maybe shows that burst. But he's someone that can stay patient, find the hole, explode through it, breaking tackles along the way, and he can catch the football as well. I think Minnesota, great landing spot for Caleb Johnson if he falls to them in maybe the second round or if they take him a bit early in round 2. Darius Alexander up 1 from 50 to 49. 6th year senior, but DJ believes will be a day 1 impact player on all 3 downs. So he is older, but he's got the ability to slide to the edge at 300 plus pounds. Got great athleticism, has very good hands as a pass rusher. He can be an impact player, I agree. And top 50, I feel like is perfect. He dominated the Senior Bowl. He's got good tape at Toledo. He's tested well at a good size. He's got some real day 1 type potential. Marcus Bowe, up from unranked to number 50. He was previously in the top 50, I think, in the first one. And this is a guy I like. He's got really short arms. He's not a right tackle, I don't believe. He is a guard, in my opinion. He's just not, I don't think, big enough to play tackle. I mean, he's got like 31 and something or 32-inch arms. I just don't think that's going to be big enough to play tackle. 6'4", 303. I think he's going to be one of these zone run type guards that he can really move out in space. I'd be shocked if he sticks a tackle, but he's someone that I think has, again, like day 1 starter ability at guard. Really good player. Out, Savone Revel, due to injury, I'd presume. Jack Sawyer, due to not really being amazing. I know he's had some moments, especially against Texas in big college football playoff game, but Sawyer's just like a solid, rugged, hard-nosed edge setter that can make some plays with high effort. I don't know that he's really a top-tier prospect. And then Charles Grant has the big-time athleticism, big-time potential. Didn't test. Thought that may have hurt him. He was expected to test fairly well, but didn't do anything. That's the top 50. And we had some interesting risers in here. Not anything incredibly surprising, but Walter Nolan starting to slip a little bit. And obviously you have the big-time athletes that moved up a lot. And then Starks interviewing well, I'm sure, has moved him up quite a bit. But yeah, I'd say the big movers were in the middle here. Eamon Wari, Mecca Ibuka somehow, Matthew Golden, Amarion Hampton. And then you see some slight drops. Will Johnson down a little bit. He's continuing to drop. Armand Membu up to 11. And then not a ton of movement inside that top 10. That's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about these down in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.